And welcome to the DSR Daily for Thursday, January 23rd. I'm your host for today, Riley Fessler, joined by Minna Stein. How are you, Minna?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm okay. Well, Minna, let's not beat around the bush. What's your first story for today?
My first story is in a new memo, the Trump administration directs federal prosecutors to investigate and potentially prosecute local authorities who resist federal immigration enforcement. This is part of a broader shift in immigration policy, which includes expanding ICE's powers to arrest undocumented immigrants near sensitive areas like schools and churches, and ending catch and release practices. These changes have caused fear and uncertainty within immigrant communities, leading to resistance from sanctuary cities and protests from immigration advocates who warn of increased panic and potential harm to migrants.
I
I
think
have
that's the
seen,
point, isn't it? Is
yeah,
increased panic and potential harm to migrants.
yes, and the cities that they live in. I've seen that cities like Chicago are preparing for raids of immigrant communities in their cities. And I think the scariest part to me is that people who work in Trump's administration are like being quoted as saying, like, we won't allow immigrants to hide in these places like schools and churches and tie the hands of the law enforcement. I think between like the raid language and the hiding language and the Nazi saluting with Elon Musk, there's something very World War II going on in
Yeah.
the first few days of this administration.
Well, this is kind of how that sort of rhetoric starts. It starts with deportation. Um, you know, readers of history will remember that the Nazis didn't start with the final solution. It started with a plan to ship the Jews to Madagascar and to other countries. This kind of rhetoric is not new, and it's not the end. It's not the end game of what they want to do. And, with this particular measure, I think, as we said, the fear and the cruelty is the point. It's not a bug, it's the feature. So it's really scary stuff because, the narrative around immigration is kind of stronger than the truth because Joe Biden deported hundreds of thousands of people. So it's not as if he was weak on immigration.
Mm-hmm.
He was very strong on immigration. It was true of Obama as well. So, the narrative is kind of the most important thing. And it seems like the Trump administration is choosing a narrative of cruelty, which in my mind is never a
Yes.
good thing.
The amount of ICE arrests have only gone up by, I want to say, 30. It's definitely less than 100 ICE arrests per day. It's not like the Trump administration is arresting insane amounts of people as compared to the Biden administration. It went from like 280 to 305. Something along those numbers. It's a very small increase.
Right.
So it really is just the rhetoric as of right now that's changing in a scary way.
Exactly. So we'll have to wait and see. Well, on the same topic, the House has approved the Laken Riley Act, a bill requiring the detention of unauthorized immigrants accused of crimes such as theft and violence, marking the first immigration legislation President Trump can sign. The bill, named after a Georgia nursing student murdered by a Venezuelan man, reflects a significant rightward shift in immigration policy with bipartisan support in Congress. Despite this, the legislation lacks funding for the massive resources required for implementation, raising concerns about its practicality. Critics argue it prioritizes low-level offenses over violent crimes, risks stripping migrants of due process, and imposes unfunded mandates on federal authorities. Supporters contend it enhances public safety and grants states more power to influence immigration policy. However, its execution depends on future funding decisions and poses logistical challenges for the Trump administration's broader immigration crackdown. The funding is a key part of this. To deport as many people as Trump has said he wants to deport would be an incredible expenditure, probably more than our economy can handle. certainly more than the government is equipped to handle. And, the funding is going to be a big question mark for all this.
Mm-hmm. Yesterday morning, a shooting occurred at a high school in Nashville, resulting in the death of a female student and the injury of another. A 17-year-old student, identified as Solomon Henderson, fired several shots in the school cafeteria. The incident marks the first school shooting in the U.S. in 2025, according to CNN's school shooting database. Authorities, including the police and SWAT teams, quickly responded, but the shooter had already taken his own life by the time the student resource officers arrived at the scene. So, between the first school shooting and the extreme weather conditions and all of this talk of mass deportations, 2025 off to kind of a rough start.
I'm honestly surprised it took 22 days to get to the school first shooting.
I am as well.
America. And school shootings just seem to be kind of a fact of life. We've almost just become numb to them, barring the truly horrific ones or the shootings where the police show gross incompetence. But, this is just kind of now a fact of life in the U.S., and certainly we're not going to see any landmark legislation to address school shootings under a Trump administration. Well, at least addressing guns. Possibly we'll see him shift the blame on something else and try and pass legislation that way, but certainly nothing in terms of real solutions, I think, can be expected from this administration, which is unfortunate because this will continue to be an issue until we get serious about it. But we haven't been serious about it for decades, so I'm not confident we'll start now.
Yeah, a really sad way. Another really sad way we're starting off the year.
Yeah. Top Republicans are exploring a range of controversial measures to fund a sweeping tax cut and immigration crackdown bill aiming to offset costs that include a $5 trillion to extend Trump-era tax cuts. Proposed strategies include a 10% tariff on imports, which would net $1.9 trillion, work requirements for Medicaid, which would net $100 billion in savings, and cuts to clean energy programs and Affordable Care Act subsidies. Some ideas, such as ending mortgage interest deductions or taxing office gyms and scholarships, target politically sensitive areas. While reconciliation allows passage with simple majorities, internal GOP divisions complicate efforts as cuts risk alienating centrist members and exacerbating the federal debt. $5 trillion for an extension in Trump-era tax cuts. Nothing here adds up to $5 trillion. So seems like it will increase the federal debt. I think long gone are the days where the Republicans tried to run as deficit hawks. They've kind of given up that game, it seems, because nothing they do seems to reduce the deficit or the national debt. It's not surprising, but they've kind of lost that standing for sure.
I feel like a lot of people are under the impression that Republicans are better at or better for the economy. And I'm just...
That is true that people think that. That's just never been true in reality.
Well, that's what I'm wondering, like, after seeing all of these, executive orders and conversations and talking about it here on this show, like, why would they think that? Especially these Republicans.
I don't really know. I think it may be, I don't know if it's still just lingering effects of the Reagan years. But I don't know. The narrative doesn't seem to be going away.
No.
No matter what the facts say about the matter, which is, I'm sure, incredibly frustrating for Democratic strategists and frustrating for Democratic voters as well.
Yeah. It must just, like we have said repeatedly, it's all in the messaging. Well, our last story for today is a little bit of an interesting one. Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency is targeting the US penny, which costs over 3 cents to mint, leading to $179 million in taxpayer costs in 2023. While eliminating the penny could reduce these expenses, it may lead to price rounding on small transactions, which could increase costs for consumers. Some countries, like Canada, have already stopped minting their equivalent, but the debate continues due to the hidden cost of using pennies in everyday transactions. Do you have any feelings about getting rid of the penny? I feel like most people have a strong feeling about the penny.
I kind of agree with getting rid of the penny.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know it cost that much money. 170. I mean, in the grand scheme of the federal budget, it's not that much, but $179 million is crazy. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me to mint a currency that's worth less than it costs to actually make. The fact that Canada has done the same leads me to believe that it's probably a good idea, but I don't know that much about the effects it's had there.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually support that. I'm sure many would disagree.
I will say it is more cost effective to mint the penny than to mint the nickel. So I think a lot of our change costs maybe more to produce than we actually use it. But like this article said, and like other research I've done, one of the unintended consequences could be price increases because the change on products will be rounded up, or the cents, excuse me. So
Yeah, according to this chart, I'm seeing nickels and pennies both cost more, but dimes, quarters, and half dollars cost less than their actual worth, which is interesting. So I'm not really sure why that is, but it's an interesting conversation. Will it actually get done? Probably not.
Probably not, but people do feel very strongly about the penny. It's a divisive topic.
There's a lot of penny fans out there. And, the novelty penny machines at the zoo will become more of a hot commodity if pennies are no longer in circulation.
Mm-hmm. What was interesting to me and kind of why I am for getting rid of the penny is the environmental effect that it has. Producing the penny, it includes like zinc in the production of the penny. It takes a big environmental toll to make the penny every year. So I think I'm for getting rid of it.
Goodbye, pennies. Sorry, Abe. You lose your coin. Well, for our final surprise story, we have the Oscar nominations for this year. Minna, I'm sure you have opinions on these. For a reminder, Best Picture nominees are Anora, The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Amelia Perez, I'm Still Here, Nickel Boys, The Substance, and Wicked. How many of those have you seen, Minna?
I think I've seen a little over half of them. I will say I haven't really had a chance to sit with it. It's early. The nominations just came out. But what I will say is from what I've seen so far, not too many upsets. So predictable Oscar year, in my opinion. I was upset that there was a snub for A Real Pain in the category of Best Picture and Best Director. Obviously, Kieran Culkin was nominated for Best Supporting Actor, which he deserved. I hope he wins. But if you haven't seen A Real Pain, go see it. It is a beautiful, beautiful movie. Happy for Demi Moore and The Substance. Good for them. Snub for Nicole Kidman in Best Actress category. She was it was like a question mark whether or not she was going to get nominated.
I don't see that as a snub because I hated that movie.
I did as well, but
the movie being Baby Girl, terrible movie.
I didn't like it either.
I didn't think she was even particularly good in it. I mean, I thought she was like fine. She did good for what the script was, but it didn't seem like a particularly demanding script. So I will not shed any tears for that movie getting snubbed.
I won't either, but there was a lot of talk about her. She had a lot of Oscar buzz, and unfortunately she got shut out. But yeah, I'm trying to think of... Oh, Wicked, obviously. That's my prediction for Best Picture winner. Do you have a prediction, Riley?
Let me look. I don't know. I feel like Conclave, The
The
Brutalist
Brutalist.
could take it. Of these, I've only seen A Complete Unknown, Dune Part 2, and Wicked. So I don't have like strong opinions on any of these, really.
I haven't seen Conclave, but I really want to. So
It's my goal to watch all of these this year, even though I've heard Amelia Perez is awful.
yes, that's another. I'm not really a big Amelia. excuse me, a big Amelia Perez fan. That movie just it was not it for me, and I have question marks surrounding any and all nominations from that movie, but specifically Best Actress I'm fine with. Director though,
Yeah,
that I have that we need to talk about. Me and the Academy need to talk about that nomination.
That's the common consensus I've seen online, is that everybody agrees that movie sucks, except for like critics for some reason.
I don't get it at all.
I've never seen like a bigger gulf between, well, for like pop culture movies, I see it because fans are rabid about things. But for a like art house movie, I've never seen a bigger divide between critics and actual viewers in terms of hating a movie.
What if we have another like Green Book year where Amelia Perez wins Best Picture?
That could.
And everyone is upset.
That definitely could happen. But like, what was Green Book's competition in 2018?
BlacKkKlansman.
Yeah. I feel like, maybe it wasn't
which should have won Best Picture.
It was a good movie. Yeah, BlacKkKlansman, Black Panther, Bohemian Rhapsody, The Favorite, Roma, A Star Is Born, and Vice.
Yeah, Roma. I would have been okay with A Star Is Born over Green Book.
I've heard Bohemian Rhapsody definitely shouldn't have been nominated. That movie is not good.
Yeah. And that was a competitive year, too. And I don't know. Anyways, not to make this conversation about 2018 and my frustration that still lingers from that. But
I feel like this year's even more competitive than that year, though, looking at this list. There's not really a weak movie on there except for Amelia Perez.
And there were some movies like Challengers, for example, that some movies from over the summer that didn't make the cut. There were a lot of good movies that came out this year. So many so that I had forgotten about many of them that came out over the summer.
Yeah. I mean, Dune Part 2 was like really early in the year.
It was.
I'm surprised it got nominated. I mean, I thought it was a great movie, but I feel like the Academy really hates sci-fi. So I'm glad it got nominated. Very shocking to me that Denis Villeneuve did not get nominated for Best Director for that movie, but Jacques Audiard for Amelia Perez did. It seems kind of insulting.
And Amelia Perez, but for Best Director, but not A Real Pain. I'm just...
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the deal is.
I think that there were like a few people that were competing for that last Best Director spot, and I don't think they picked the best one or even the second best one. But
him being on there at all seems insane to me. But
yeah. But Timothée Chalamet in 2 movies nominated for Best Picture this year, so good for him.
The year
Special
of
shout out.
I did not love A Complete Unknown. I'm going to be honest.
Really? I did. I liked it a lot.
I didn't like it. I thought it was fine, but I thought he was good in it, but I didn't really think the movie was about anything.
Okay, so that's what I really liked about it, because I personally don't like Bob Dylan. And I don't care for his singing style. I'm not really like interested in his life story. So that's why I enjoyed the movie quite a bit, because I felt like it wasn't really about Bob Dylan. It was more just a time capsule of what was happening in these 5 years in the 60s and the tension between new folk and old folk music.
But I feel like that part didn't really come into focus until like the back half of the movie. Up until that point, I was just like, okay, it's just about Bob Dylan's rising career, and every once in a while they'll flash to a news story about what's happening, and then like not even the back half, like the final third is finally about like the tension between moving on or staying true to folk. And I was like, would have liked this to kind of be like the through line, but I don't know.
I think that's a fair criticism, but I think that Bob Dylan's rising career was the introduction. It was like that slow build of new pop. And then you have Pete Seeger as a main character who is old pop. And oh my gosh, I keep saying pop and I mean folk music. All these pop musicians like Pete Seeger and Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan and why can't I remember the name of the guy in the hospital that he visits?
Oh, I can't remember his name either. But
which is bad because it's like the point of the movie.
I know. Special shout out Joan Baez, my favorite folk artist.
I'm just not a big folk music fan.
And that's my favorite genre. So I was pleased.
Yeah, Woody Guthrie is who I was trying to think.
Right, thank you.
Honestly, the unsung hero of that movie was her unsung favorite part was Johnny Cash. I was at least entertained every time he was on screen.
Great scene of him trying to park his car that I did enjoy.
James Mangold's second time directing somebody playing Johnny Cash. He definitely has a strange obsession with Johnny Cash.
As we all should.
Yeah.
Great
honestly,
singer.
A better movie, by the way, Walk the Line, than A Complete Unknown.
Great movie. I think Walk the Line is one of the best musician biopics, and I think that that's something that I liked about A Complete Unknown is I didn't feel like it was so music biopic-y, right? Like it didn't fall into all of those tropes of like Bohemian Rhapsody, for example, as we continue to slam that movie. But like I thought it was a very gentle biopic. It offered me more than just Bob Dylan's life story.
I did not care for Bohemian Rhapsody. I'm just tired of music biopics. They need to stop.
Yeah, I agree.
They're not that good.
And there's like 14 more coming down the line for this year.
I know. Although I will say, at least Pharrell Williams did his in Lego.
Yes, and the one of the best ones that I've ever seen is the Weird Al one. If you have not seen Weird Al's biopic, you should. It's very funny.
I've not seen that one.
It's very good. It's with Daniel Radcliffe playing Weird Al.
I think my least favorite one is probably Elvis. I hated that movie with a fiery passion.
Yeah, I didn't really like that one either.
But I will be watching Weird, even though it's a Roku original.
No, it's really good. Trust me.
And I don't know how I'll watch it.
Roku popped off with that one.
Maybe I'll be renting it for like $1.
Credit where credit is due.
Honestly, any movie with Daniel Radcliffe playing a strange guy, I feel like is going to be entertaining.
It was excellent, in my opinion.
Well, that's our very rambling takes on the Oscars this year, the
Oscars from 2018.
Yeah. Which is not very surprising, but we're ready to be angry if Amelia Perez wins a single award.
I'm so ready.
I would hope that it doesn't, but
especially director. If
it wins anything, I'll be upset. But to be fair, I also haven't seen it, so maybe I should watch it so I can hate it even more.
Yeah. Watch it. Come back. Let us know.
Let you know how much I absolutely despised it. I will.
Yeah.
Well, that is all we have for today, but we have more shows coming out later today, including our flagship DSR podcast. We've got another DSR Daily for you tomorrow, so join us again on Friday, almost the end of the week, thankfully. But until then, bye-bye.